This is really just a framework to help us understand the directions, the aims, if you will, that the soul is trying to point us in for not only our healing and our transformation, but for our fulfillment. This is all about fulfillment, y'all. This is all about fulfillment. When we can live a soul led life, oof, baby, there's nothing more fulfilling than that. There is nothing, I repeat, nothing more fulfilling than living a soul led life. Now, that being said, living a soul led life is scary as fuck. Can be super scary because even if it's not like super scary seeming from the outside, the subtle things that we have to endure on the inside from a nervous system perspective to move into the unknown and to change and to do these things, like the soul is wanting us to have an experience that it hasn't yet had before. It wants more. So when we're expanding into new and different, it's like, right? So, and when we can cultivate the skills to navigate that intensity and that unknown and that scariness, oh, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, there's a deep fulfillment there. There's a deep peace there. And that's what we get to do when we engage with this work. So, what we're about to talk about, the Purusarthas, Sankalpa, Vikalpa, these originate from the Upanishads, which are 3,000 plus years old. And I always am so in love with that fact because how beautiful that people from all around the world have been engaging with these teachings and these practices that bring them closer to self and source, that help them follow their soul, that help them look at all of the shadows that are in the way of us being able to do so. And how do we alchemize that? And how do we rinse and repeat? And people have been doing this for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And it's just so gorgeous that we get to be a part of that lineage. So the Purusarthas are, and I will spell this for you. So Purusartha, Purusarthas, Purusarthas. They are the callings and the needs of the soul, to put it simply. So there's 4 of them. And these 4 Purusarthas are what the soul, the infinite spark of the divine within each and every one of us, is constantly, forever and always engaging with and moving towards. Because it's these things that are literally calling the soul forward. It's these things that the soul needs in order to evolve and to have the experience here on earth that it came here to have, that only you uniquely can give it. So the 4 callings, the 4 needs of the soul, the 4 Purusarthas are Artha, Artha. That can be looked at as our base needs. And it's more than just base needs. So, food, shelter, safety, but it's beyond that, because I might even argue that a lack of those things are sometimes part of the needs that the soul needs to evolve. And that's a really hard pill to swallow. We're not going to dive into that conversation, but just Artha is what the soul needs, what your soul needs to have the experience that it's here to have for its growth and for its evolution. You uniquely, you specifically. And think like literal physical objects and circumstances. Then we're going to go into kama, which is pleasure. Kama. Pleasure. The soul needs pleasure. It needs indulgences. It needs pleasant experiences to savor. Moksha, which is Moksha. Moksha can be seen. I've heard some people like use the word enlightenment. I don't really like that word. I think it's more so a connection with source. It is your connection with the divine. We need that connection. We crave that connection. When we are disconnected from that connection, from that relationship, we're not well. You can see that all around us. That is what moksha is. And then there's dharma, Dharma, which is, and I feel like this one's sticky because you'll see a lot that people use the word purpose synonymously with dharma. And I think that that gets to be a little bit sticky because I want to be very clear that dharma is not a career. Maybe your dharma is intricately woven with your career. But I will say that probably most of the time, it's for most people, it's not. What dharma is, it's like your unique essence. It's your one unique note in the entire symphony of the all of everything. It's you, it's your personality, it's the way that you show up in the world, it's the ripple effect that you uniquely have when you live in alignment with your soul and you express yourself authentically. That is your dharma. It's your beingness. And again, maybe it is wrapped up with your career. I don't want to say that it's not, but I just want to say, because this was something I ran up against a lot with others when learning this material and working with other people, it is not always your purpose in terms of your career and like what you're here to do. It's just your beingness. It's just being you, your most vibrant, your most full, your most aligned, your most authentic self. That is your dharma. And so the teaching is that our soul is constantly needing all of these things. And with that being said, it needs all of it all of the time. And at any given moment in time, our soul is most wanting and guiding us in a certain direction. So think of it like anything else we have in life, right? We have an entire plate full of things that we do in our life. We know that at times we're going to need to focus more on one thing than the other thing. And it's the same thing here. Our soul is going to have these periods of time where it's needing more focus and attention and energy and intention and growth in one of these areas more than the others in order to continue to move us closer and closer into alignment and closer to the experiences, again, that we're here to have for our evolution, for our growth. So the teaching is that we are constantly being guided in one of these four directions more at any given moment in time. And we will be guided to be in that area and to really fulfill that area for as long as we need until we get what we need from that place. And then we can be guided into the next area. And again, it's not that like we're only focused on one thing and none of these other things matter. That's not what I'm saying. It's because we constantly do need all four things happening. And if you're looking at like a pie chart at any given moment in time, there's going to be more of the slice of pie on one of these areas. So let me feel. Is there anything else that I want to say about these? This is really just a framework to help us understand the directions, the aims, if you will, that the soul is trying to point us in for not only our healing and our transformation, but for our fulfillment. So, Sankalpa and Vikalpa. Ugh. So, Sankalpa is the deepest driving desire of the soul. It's the soul's highest intention. It is what the soul is most wanting to move toward. It is most longing and calling and pushing and nudging you to move toward this thing. That is Sankalpa, the greatest desire of the soul, the direction it is trying to lead you in, the intention it is holding for you. That is Sankalpa. Vikalpa is the unconscious, shadowed desire, not of the soul, of the egoical self, of our nervous system, of our body, of this human self. And generally, Sankalpa and Vikalpa are in direct conflict with one another. I mean, direct conflict with one another. So if I use myself as an example, the very first time I came to this work, the Sankalpa that I uncovered was that the deepest driving desire within me was that I wanted to be myself so bad that it hurt. That was the desire. So it was moving me in the direction of authentic self-expression. It was moving me in the direction of really uncovering the truth of who I was. And it was moving me in the direction of how do I take what I'm finding in my internal landscape and move it out into my external landscape to be myself. That was my greatest desire. That was my Sankalpa. My Vikalpa, which the Vikalpa, I'll say, is generally rooted in trauma. I mean, I can say it a bunch of different ways, but it's generally rooted in trauma. It's rooted in wounds. It's rooted in old stories. It's rooted in all the ways that we tried to keep ourselves, quote unquote, safe, right? Based off of past experiences. So my Vikalpa was that it wasn't, and let me phrase this again, because the Vikalpa is the belief that we hold and the desire that we hold on an unconscious level. It's unconscious. We don't know about it. Again, indirect conflict with the Sankalpa. So my Vikalpa at the time was to basically, the belief that I held was that I was not safe to be myself, and the desire was to keep myself safe. And so even though my soul wanted to move me in the direction of more authentic expression of self, my Vikalpa was like, hell nah, bitch, it's not safe to be yourself. So we're going to do all this like self sabotage shenanigans underneath the surface. And we're going to make it really scary for you to do this because we don't want you to do this because we don't believe that it's safe. And our desire is to keep you safe. And even though my example of my desire, my Sankalpa, was to be myself, and that my Vikalpa, the unconscious desire, was to keep myself safe, was to like this belief that I wasn't safe to be myself, you can already start to probably feel into yourself where you have a strong desire for something and yet it feels like this thing that is really far away, not attainable. Every time you make moves towards it, it doesn't really work out. It feels scary, whatever the thing is. And it's because the Sankalpa and the Vikalpa are in conflict with one another. It's just how it works. Again, the soul wants us to move into the unknown territory that will bring it fulfillment, will bring us fulfillment on all levels. But the Vikalpa, the body, our human experiences here, our trauma, our wounds, our old stories, all of the things, our body's job is to keep us safe. That is the number one job of our body, of our nervous system, is to keep us safe. So it's going to dig its heels in when we're trying to move it into something that is unknown and scary, especially if we've had an experience in the past that has affirmed the quote unquote lack of safety that exists there. Does that make sense? This is why this shit is so juicy, because everything that you deeply, 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 deeply want for yourself in this life, and I'm getting chills and I'm getting emotional thinking about it, everything that you want is yours for the having. Our soul wouldn't have us desiring things that it could not have. It wouldn't be moving us in directions that were not meant for us. And so when we want and we long for those things and we try to make move toward those things, and then we just run up against resistance and we run up against self-sabotage and we run up against all the ways that we don't feel safe, we have the opportunity to now see it for what it is, the soul and the Sankalpa and our human self and our Vikalpa. And then our work becomes, how do we heal and tend to and alchemize our shadows? How do we heal and tend to and alchemize our Vikalpa so that we can follow our soul? You wouldn't be here if you didn't want to live a soul-led life. And the truth is we can't possibly live a soul-led life without also looking at all of the shadows that make it harder for us to do so. And that's what this work allows us to do. But I want to say, when I first did this work, and it is to no fault of the teacher, I completely trust the unfolding of it all. I see it now as it was an absolute part of my artha. It was a need for me to, quite frankly, get wrecked. I got wrecked the first time I did this work. It was definitely triggering and, quite frankly, re-traumatizing the way that we dove into this work. It was quite aggressive. And I was still obsessed with it. It was still very potent, but I was 100% wrecked after the first time I dove into this work. And it took me a really long time to recognize what was happening in my nervous system and the ways that it was getting tangled up. And thankfully now, with the other modalities that I have come across and studied, I also facilitate somatic therapy work. And I just want you to know that it can be a lot when we start to go into these practices, because we are literally just going into these places. And so all of that to say that if you find yourself in need of immediate support, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. And if you want, we can hop into the containers that I specifically have that utilize somatic therapy to tend to the nervous system, to keep it regulated, to regulate it in the process of literally healing trauma, so that when we go into these shadowed Vikalpa places, we're doing it with finesse and in a way that isn't wrecking you, that isn't causing dysregulation, that isn't re-traumatizing you, that is nourishing you and literally healing you in the process. I'm so grateful for all of these different tools that I have, that I've gotten to use for myself, that I've gotten to share with others. And so again, just all that to say, I'm so here. Everything you could possibly need in terms of links and how to connect with me are just all below. And I'm sending you so much love, and I cannot wait to see you in the next video.